Hello and welcome to the Naked Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Emerant, and I'm so glad you're here. This space is devoted to real, raw, and radically honest conversations with some of the most magnetic, diverse, and wonderful humans I've had the honor of crossing paths with. From mystics to makers, teachers to truth seekers, this is a home for anyone craving depth, connection, and clarity. At the heart of this podcast is a mission to unshame the human experience. We're here to dismantle the silence, to bring to light what we've been taught to hide, and to reclaim our voices through storytelling. Whether we're unpacking grief, celebrating joy, exploring sensuality and identity, or getting curious about what it really means to live an authentic and meaningful life, nothing is off limits here. This is a community built through conversation, a place where you get to feel seen, embraced, and reminded that you're never alone. So get cozy, stay open, and let's get naked in the most soul-expanding, liberating way possible. Welcome to Naked Conversations. Hello there, and welcome to the Naked Conversations podcast. This is Emerant. I am your host, and I wanted to share a little bit about my story and my journey, because I'm realizing that I have listeners from all over the world when I checked my stats, and I think it would be really wonderful to spend some time with you so that you could learn a little bit more about me, my journey, my mission, and my awakening that has been unfolding over the course of the last 8 or so months. So I guess I'll start with the awakening process and the awakening journey. And I do want to say, as someone who is a channel, I will say that this is just channeled wisdom. This is a channeled transmission, and I in no way take responsibility for the cosmologies that I am transmitting. I know that they are coming from a place that is far beyond me, from an ancient lineage that I am tapping into. A lot of the time I am unsure of where this wisdom is coming from, where this knowledge is coming from. But I do realize that a lot of it is foundational wisdom and knowledge from ancient practices and ancient traditions. And I feel as though this is information that is accessible to all of us, and that it is accessible to each of us as individuals to relate to in a way that can really enliven us and change our perspectives on the way that we have been living, because it is ultimately accessible knowledge through contacting our own inner life, our lineage, the subconscious, the unconscious, and this relational field that we are all dancing within. So I would just like to preface all of that. I would like to preface this conversation by just stating that, because I will say a little bit about my own background, my own lineage. I am a second-generation Canadian. All of my grandparents were born in Europe. My grandfather actually was born in Egypt. All of my other grandparents were born in Central Europe and in the British Isles, Scotland particularly. And there is a lineage of wisdom that is alive in those parts of the world that runs through my veins. And fascinatingly enough, in the human psyche, a lot of the stories and myths that we have access to, or the stories and myths that we have access to, are saying similar stories throughout a variety of different cultures the world over in vastly different environments. It is the myths and the stories that we all have access to. So, although much of the transmission that I'm doing is not possibly of my lineage, there is a deeper knowledge and a deeper wisdom that it is coming from, and I would just like to honor that. And I am doing my best to educate myself about where these transmissions are coming from. But I do just want to preface all of that by giving that disclaimer and disclosure. So I wanted to hop in and speak a little bit about my experience of weaving with the land and being in deep relationship to my own inner life and creating contact, because there is something really special that is rising within the collective and within ourselves and within our own souls. And I do believe that I am here to be the bridge for that information. I have been channeling for a very long time. I have about 200 journals of information that I am not really sure where this information is coming from, but it's definitely coming from a space that is not, that is intrinsically connected to who I am. And it's also connected to who you are, if you are listening to this podcast. And it's really tapping into that field. So my awakening process really was spurred on by a trip to Latvia. It had been in percolation for quite some time, but during this trip to Latvia, I had been, just prior to this, I had been in a process in therapy of separating myself from the stories that I had told myself about myself and the beliefs that I had had about who I was. And it involved reading a personal journal of 3 pages each day, 3 pages that I would read slowly, out loud, and to myself. And it was the story of my childhood up until where I currently was. It was the story of what happened and how it made me feel. And it was written in very plain language. And it was a very painful story, extremely painful story of separation, of feeling deeply alone, deeply exiled by life, deeply abandoned by my caretakers, and that no one, no matter how good I was, no matter how much I proved and performed and was the best version of myself, no one would ever choose me. And it was extremely painful. And I developed a lot of protective mechanisms around my heart, around myself, around my own vulnerability, and truly believed myself to be alone. And I became a people pleaser, a extremely performative, very smart in terms of how I would convince myself otherwise and convince my own story to be true. And I really had trouble accessing my own emotions, my own emotional reality. I would very much overthink everything and spin stories in my mind quickly, and before I could even realize what I was doing. So this trip to Latvia was, it was magical, for lack of a better word. It really was. It was a adventure therapy experiential journey where we were in communion with the land, examining our beliefs, weaving our own consciousness, our own beliefs about ourselves and the world around us with the natural environment. We were in places and spaces that were extremely challenging for us, and it was all facilitated through adventure. So this truly was a pilgrimage, and it culminated in a sauna experience in Latvia on this family's traditional territory, on their traditional lands. And this property had been in the family for, I believe, 7 or 8 generations. And it was this beautiful experience where we picked herbs and flowers from the garden. We connected to the earth in a very profound way, where we sang songs and hummed and danced around these herbs. We created a salve for us, which we used in the sauna itself. We danced around a fire. We used amber to release our beliefs into the fire, and essentially had a sweat ceremony. And it truly was a power initiatory experience that I experienced there. And that was a catalytic moment for me, because I had also broken my ankle while I was there, but really solidifying this kind of idea of feeling the depths of my own aloneness. And that's really where that started to kind of unravel and unfurl, and a belief that I had held so deeply for myself for over 30 years started to loosen slightly. And as it happens, the universe will provide you with the perfect opportunity to explore that further. And a few months later, I had met somebody who was precisely everything that I had wanted in a partner. Not Eastern European, he was Irish. But excellent job, phenomenal physical chemistry, intelligent, precisely what I had desired in a partner. And I thought, oh, this is great. This is it. However, it really pulled on this emotional sense of inadequacy that I had within myself, and our relationship dissolved pretty quickly. But that being said, it really hit on this kind of core wound of I am alone and no one will ever want me. And no matter how good I am, no matter how well I perform, no matter any of that. And it sent me into a spiral. So in early 2025, I shaved my head. And this was at the same time as the start of the year of the snake. And I will say that 2025 was one of, if not the most challenging year of my life, because every single belief that I had about myself was forcibly removed. And in a gentle way, but also it was a very deep internal process of letting go of beliefs. Like deep core beliefs that I had about myself, about my place in the world. And it was extremely painful, extremely painful, because I was forced to reckon with who I am beyond the narratives and beyond the stories that I had believed about myself. And there was this feeling of, if I'm not that, then who am I? Who am I if I am not the stories that I've told myself? Who am I if I am not the experiences that I have had? Who am I if I am not the job that I have? Who am I if I don't perform this persona and personality? It required me to get truly naked, truly naked with myself. And it was a whirlwind. And I still felt at the very core of my being that there were these beliefs that I had that just simply were untrue, yet being held in my own psyche. And I was desperate to find a way to get rid of them for a very long time. So for 15 years, I actually was in a process of deep spiritual work, spiritual development, going to all of the ceremonies, doing all of the healing work. Oh my gosh, every book that you could possibly imagine. I read it with such fervent desire to change my life and to change my circumstances and to heal my wounds. And even though I knew every single thing about my wounds, it just seemed like nothing was ever going to be enough. And the most powerful thing that I had done in 2025 was really spend more time on the land. And this was something that was quite intuitively led. I had purchased a car and it was the end of summertime, and I thought to myself, how have I not been outside? I had been outside, obviously, but I mean, truly alone in nature, camping with the elements in the great outdoors. And I know that there's many people fear the outdoors. They fear nature. They fear silence, and they fear really being alone with themselves. This is something that I don't fear. I have a pretty, I am pretty adventurous when it comes to that. So, I just decided to get in my car and start driving. And I found this absolutely beautiful spot, in Squamish. I live in Vancouver, and I traveled to Squamish, which is 45 minutes north of Vancouver on the Sea to Sky Highway, which for those that you don't know, it is one of the most magnificent drives on a clear day that you can possibly do. Albeit it is quite dangerous if you were to do it at night because there are no lights. Another story. But I started to spend time on the land in Squamish in my little tent with my memory foam mattress because I am a little bit of a diva. But as I spent time there, I would experiment with light dosages of psychedelics. And this one night in August of 2025, I was there and I was just about to start my period. And I had this overwhelming wash of surrender it was a deep surrender because I had been running the stories and the anxiety and holding it within myself for so long. So long. Like, no matter what I do, it won't be enough and no one will love me. And it was a consistent story that I was telling myself over and over that was being reflected in every single romantic relationship, friendship, partnership. It was just that I would never be enough to be held and that I was so separate from life. And in this moment of surrender and deep fucking grief of like really standing at the center of it and feeling it so deeply, not just the stories around it, but feeling really at the center of it, I offered my blood to the land and my tears and my sweat. And I said, please, like, I have nothing left. And that was really a moment of devotional surrender to the land. Little did I know about the ancestral practices that involve weaving your own DNA to the land as a absolutely profound practice. So that happened in August, and in September I was doing this I was going to that land quite frequently, and it's out of service. It's quite remote. It's very beautiful. And in September, I was going to this land frequently, bi-weekly. Early September rolls around and there are wildfires that are, scorching that part of BC. And I had been looking online for other spots to go to. And in the Fraser Valley, I was looking up some free camping spots, and I saw this one spot, and I'm not going to name it because it is incredibly sacred and I do not want it to get overrun. But there was this one spot that was about a 2-hour drive, and I thought, okay, that looks nice, but I really had no clue what I was in for. So I drive out there and I think to myself, how long would it take from Squamish to get here? It's just a passing thought, but the thoughts were very clear at that time. And I drive there to uncover this magnificently clean lake. Oh my gosh, I was just in heaven. It was truly one of the most sacred places I had been. The indigenous folks, the nation, call it Sacred Lake, and the mythology of that area is that it contains water spirits and water babies, and water, as many people know, is very intertwined with emotion and the unconscious and feelings and the other world, really, because it's from water, from a womb that we are all born, a womb from which we are all created. I spent the entire day in this lake, swimming, cleansing, giving offerings, and I found 2 owl feathers, and owls represent higher wisdom. They represent silence, stillness. They are quite otherworldly because they are rarely seen. Extremely powerful and profound experience. Not long after that, I returned to the same spot in Squamish where I was doing all of these, where I had my full surrender, and made a connection with someone. I went with one of my best girlfriends, and we had made a connection with someone, and the synchronicities that happened on that land were just too wild. We had met this person who eventually inspired me to buy a camper van, and we had a beautiful connection, him and I, and still friendly to this day. And yeah, just a very catalytic experience, which was in September. And then in October, early October, my best girlfriend Sarah and I had purchased tickets to go see our favorite DJ in Las Vegas. And I had never been to Las Vegas before, and I was very excited and didn't really know what to expect. And our whole the line that we would always say to one another through 2025 is, well, I guess we can only go up, only up, only up, only up, because it really felt like a true rock bottom in many ways. So the only way to go is up. So we purchased tickets to this festival to see Rufus du Sol, called Rise. Rise is a festival that happens just outside of Las Vegas, DJs, etc., and it is ceremonial. We had no clue what we were in for. We arrived to Las Vegas, and the amount of synchronicities and blessings and gifts that were given to us were beyond comprehension. I was gifted a fur coat. We arrived to the Rise Festival in a limousine. We walked on water. It was held on a dry lake bed. We were summoned to the stage. It was ceremonial, truly ceremonial experience. Yeah, it was very special, very, very special. And at that point, my friend Sarah and I really felt as though we were going into a type of spiritual psychosis, because it felt like the veil was extremely thin, and every single, music was speaking to us. The feeling around certain songs was being illuminated to us. There were so many insights that we were receiving. And Las Vegas is the last place that you would expect to have a spiritual awakening. Yet, I digress. It unfolded from there. On our flight home, we were upgraded to first class. It was truly an unbelievable few days that we experienced in Las Vegas, and I'll go into it a little bit more on a separate podcast to give the full story. But it was crazy. It was really crazy. When we arrived back to Vancouver, I had planned a ceremony with a friend of mine, and it had been in development for quite some time, and it was a DMT ceremony. And I do want to mention the astrology of that time as well. My personal astrological chart, I have very astrology, the archetypes, the wheel of the cycles and patterns of life itself is truly what I see astrology as. And my personal natal chart, I have a Pisces stellium, meaning 3 or more planets in a sign. So 3 planets in Pisces in the 9th house. So for anybody who is listening, that is the 9th house is the house of spirituality, the house of God, and Pisces is duality and learning to dance with duality, and it is ultimate contact with the cosmic stew, with the field of existence and experience. So double whammy there. But I will mention at that time there were a lot of transits that were happening through Pisces, and it was very much hitting on my natal sun, meaning that there was a lot of shedding that was happening and a lot of tension, but also deep awakenings. So I had planned this ceremony with a friend of mine. Shout out to Eve. We had planned it for quite some time. It was a DMT ceremony, and I had a lot of fears around that, mostly because I just was not sure what the impact and the implications of that medicine would be. But it was a true homecoming. It was a true homecoming. It felt as though everything was just making so much sense to me in every regard. It felt like I was home with that medicine, and it really opened up an ancient pathway within myself that I had been denying for a very long time, of my gifts as a oracle and as a speaker. And it really dispelled a lot of the fears that I had around that, because this has always been my true nature. It has always been this dance of duality and learning or knowing the truth of non-separation, yet having this deeply held human experience of separation, feeling at odds with that. And at that point, it happened at the perfect time to dispel that illusion completely, and to really be and stand at one with all that is. And yeah, it was a very profound and beautiful time of my life, and it spurred on another journey where it felt as though the environment that I had been in was not serving me anymore. The place that I was living, it really felt as though it was time for me to step up into my leadership and to, oh my gosh, really play the hand that I was given rather than folding, to use a Vegas terminology, rather than passing on the gifts that I had been giving, to really start to weave with them and to start to use them and to have them be of service to others. So it really felt like it was that time. So I had started my business, and yeah, it's an unfolding process, and it's a very exciting one because there is so much that wants to come through me, and it's learning to direct that energy in a way that is of service, and using this wisdom, knowledge, and channel that I have to help illuminate the truth for others to walk in love. So at this time, I am in the process of developing this modality, this business, and recognizing that I am here to be of service in a very profound way to help others to rise into the truth of who they are. And as a result, I am having to do that myself. And the methodology that I have created is very much a roadmap to that. And it's something that I have been returning to over and over and over again for the course of 3+ years, mixing embodiment, shadow work, connection to the field of life, relationality with plants, nervous system regulation. It is extremely holistic in its scope, and I feel very fortunate to be bringing this to the world. In January, I was really feeling as though the ground that was holding me was no longer foundational, was no longer suitable. I had purchased a 1970s trailer and decided it was time. The astrology of that time was wild, and I thought to myself, I really need to go to the desert. I need to do the final stripping of my perceptions of myself and ground into what is real and connect elementally to life itself, earth, water, air, fire, spirit being the glue holding it together, and to do so in a place that is more solitary, that is ancient and sacred. So I drove to Sedona and had some pretty phenomenal experiences down there that were just so grounded and allowing my own energy to be leading me in that way. And it was a truly special time, And since then, it's been exciting. It's been an exciting time because it is ripe and fertile, pregnant with possibility. The unfolding and the synchronicities each day have just been incredible. They've been truly incredible, and I am coming to an understanding of the energy that is within myself, the energy that is around me, and how we as individuals can start to weave with all of the emotions that we have within us, all of the latent emotions that are lying dormant in our unconscious, and to weave with them elementally, so that they are rooted in truth, they are rooted in life, and they are rooted in the field with which they can be held. And I am so looking forward to seeing your applications come in for this mentorship methodology that I am creating for us to come back to inner union with ourselves, with life, with spirit, with energy, with all that is, and feeling detached from the outcome and the stresses and the anxieties, and learning to understand the energetic reality with which we are embodying in this current moment and in this current time. It is truly a moment for expansion in a massive way, and a learning to weave with the earth herself, with land, with spirit, and to remember who we are on a fundamental level, and to weave with that in order for us to emanate our soul's gifts and purpose. And yeah, I feel really excited to connect more with you, listeners. And if there are any other questions that you might have for me, I am so interested in exploring the field of consciousness, the field of relationality, energy itself, embodiment, learning to dance with the archetypes. As many of you know, I will have another episode around my journey through the world of exotic dance, the world of social work, social reparation, social healing. It is an honor and a blessing to be here with you and for you to be listening to me. I know that attention is our greatest resource. Attention is our greatest resource, and intention is also a resource, or it is also it's a resource. Intention is a resource. Attention more than intention. Intention is kind of a gateway. And I feel really grateful for you to be listening. So if there are any kinds of questions or concerns or things that you want to get into conversation about, I would love to know. So you can find me on Instagram. I am Emerant, and I am opening up spots for my one-to-one mentorship, Emanate, where we are going deep. We are going real deep into learning our patterns, our conditionings, and learning to weave in the spiral itself, to stand at the center and to know ourselves, to know truth, and to be enlivened by the current of life itself so that we can emanate what we truly came here to be and do. Thank you. So much love. I am you. You are me. Much love.
Thank you for being here and for letting this naked conversation move you. If something stirred in your heart or body, or if you felt seen, softened, awakened, or curious, I'd love to know more. Come find me on Instagram and share what touched you. The intention is to make this a living and breathing relationship, not just a performance. And if you're longing to go deeper, to be met in the raw, and to tend to what's ready to unfold in your soul's calling, my one-to-one sessions are an intimate container for that, where we meet soul to soul, body to body, and in devotion to your truth and your light. You'll find details in the show notes. Until next time.